Hi everyone, my name is Nicola Wood and I'm founder of Hair Made Easi. Welcome to the podcast today. We're going to be talking about educating from the heart and talking about the passions about education throughout the different journeys that we've faced. So shall we start with Sam, what sparked your passion for education? What made you want to become an educator?
I was actually approached by Bellamy. So they actually scouted me out when I moved back to the UK. So with Bellamy, I used their hair when I first was living in America. And then when I moved back, they actually scouted me out because not many people were using the brand in the UK. I had the biggest imposter syndrome ever. They flew me out to LA to do an onboarding, and I convinced myself that they were going to put me back on the plane. I was like, I'm going to go. They're going to realize that I'm a fraud and they're going to send me back to the UK, but it's okay. I'll give it a try. And I remember my son was only 6 months at the time, and I was breastfeeding him, and I just had this, I don't know, it really got to me. And I was like pumping my milk behind the dresser, like I was doing all sorts of stuff. And I was like, okay, they're gonna be like, we don't want this girl. She's breastfeeding her kid, like she's a loser. So I think I let it get to me a lot. And then I realized, you know what? I'm actually all right. And they've obviously seen something in me. And maybe I don't see it in myself yet, but one day I will. And I just have to trust that this brand believe in me. And the best thing I can do is just give it my all. And then I started educating for them in the UK. I was educating for them in Ireland. I was the first educator in Ireland. And it just grew from there. And I think with it, I got confident every class that I taught. But to start with, I didn't think I was worthy. Even now, I still have those days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. But I just have to snap myself out of that and believe that I'm here for a reason. And I think people like that. People like that you're grounded and you're real and you're down to earth. And I think that really allows me to never let the ego get to me, you know, always to just remain humble.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah, really powerful. Love that. Has anybody else got anything they want to share about what sparked your passion for education?
I mean, I think it just comes from loving what you do, you know? And that's where it came from me. Like I was just loved doing extensions, and I got to a stage where I was like, naturally, I really wanted a next step, and that was becoming an educator. But again, the very first like course I ever done, I crumbled. I started having heart palpitations. I thought I was going to have a panic attack on the spot. And you've got all these people just sat around this table staring at you, expecting like everything. And I'm like, I'm going to crumble. And then it's fine. Like once you get rolling, actually, you're just teaching what you love. Yeah. And then, you know, it's that. It just after that, then I calmed and I was able to deliver the class to my best ability. But it was like that imposter syndrome. When you step in from behind the chair to then teaching, it is a huge transition, and it is very scary. But it gets easier as time, you know. I like to think of it as teaching a group of friends and like delivering the best I can.
You get a buzz from it as well. I find when I'm talking about it, you become more and more passionate, and then you start remembering things and teaching them things, and you know, I'll say something, that a mistake that I made back then, I thought, oh, I really wish someone told me that and I would have learned from that. Or, you know, certain brands not to maybe invest in and things like that, you know, saving my students thousands of pounds. That's why I feel I give them valuable content, because, you know, you go to some of these, you know, big brands that do kind of like 10, 15 people a day being taught over and over and over again. It's just the bog standard A to B teaching. Whereas I think the best way to be mentored is real life problems and real life problem solving. And that's where I find I get the buzz from, is teaching them those things. Like my secrets, I want to share my secrets. I want to make sure that the industry is better, and there's no gatekeeping. Why do you need to gatekeep? You're not going to be the only person that does hair extensions.
Love that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel it takes us back to like you want to teach your students the mistakes that you've made so that they don't make the same mistakes. And I feel like that's where education has evolved so much.
And valuable.
So much value. Yeah, so that it'll stick with them when they have a problem come up in their career and they're like, oh, they taught me that, so I'm going to avoid that, you know? So I feel like we do over deliver when it comes to education.
I feel
these
like
days.
the education we deliver is completely different to sort of a brand. It's like we educate like on experience, but we still teach them how to get from A to B, but it's like it's the experience of what we've learned in the things we've done wrong or the experiences we've had. I think it's just, you can't compare the two types of education you that are on sort of offer now from
so
brands
much experience to be able to teach, because how are you meant to answer the questions that they have if you don't even know the answers? I think it was mind-blowing, but there are so many educators out there that just think because they've become qualified, they've done it for a year and they've been a bit fully booked, or they've got some good content online, they can now become an educator. I'm like, but you haven't had those years of experience to even give them that valuable lesson that that person has invested in. And I think that's where it can get really scary in the industry.
Mm-hmm. I think the industry's pivoted as well, right? Like the way that we educate, it's totally pivoted. I remember when I first ever took a hair extension course, it was just the method. All you were learning was the method, and that was that. But now I think even when I teach or when I go to a course, the method is just like the bare minimum that you're learning. You're learning what we talk about, like the mistakes, the trials, the errors, why now we do it one way versus another. And I think it's so much more important to understand the why behind why we do something. You know, we drop a tape down low because we want there to be movement within that tape and extension. We don't want to cause tension. We don't want our client to have traction alopecia, all these kind of things that were never spoke about. When I first did my course, it wasn't even touched on. And now I think when I'm teaching, I'm trying to bring that, because I want them to understand, okay, yeah, you've seen someone do it this way online, but let me tell you why you should probably do it this way. And it's not that that way is wrong. It's just that this makes more sense in the long run. The goal of extensions is maybe that person, we're only helping them for a short amount of time. And the ultimate goal is that they can take the extensions out and their hair would have grown and thrived. And you're still going to have clients that will wear them, you know, for years and years. But then the goal should never be for them to be someone that's going to wear extensions for 20 years. And when they take them out, their hair is awful. You know, you want their hair to flourish.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's more than a method now. Education, it is more than the method, it's everything else.
It's everything else.
Yeah.
And it's also not just us getting the education, it's up to us to also be educating our students how to educate their clients. So it's like a circle.
You need to know what you're talking about, not just what you're doing.
But I think also, like, when you have the clients on the course as well, I learn as well from them learning, like the questions they're asking. I'm like, oh, okay, so people want to know this, even though I've got it locked away. It's like, I didn't know actually I should be talking about this, or people want to know that. It just seems such like basic knowledge to me that I'm like, oh, I didn't really think I needed to talk about that. But it's the questions that people ask. I'm like, oh, okay. It's going deeper into it now.
It's even things though like colour matching with clients. You know, I don't ever colour match when I'm like in artificial light and late at night. Like I always tell them to come in daylight hours. But like when clients ask, you don't realise that you do that, naturally do that. But when they start asking these questions, you're like, oh yeah, I naturally do that. But now I'm teaching it, and this is why I do that. So you get a better match and a better blend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you're also powerful, because you can adapt to your courses, because you are at the top of your game, and because you are setting the standards within the industry. Your courses can be adapted, whereas I think there's so many courses out there now where it's just a cash cow, and it's just there for let's bring some money in, let's teach everybody how to do hair extensions. Don't know how to do it myself, but I tell you what, let's just make some money out of it. And that's where I find it very frightening within the industry.
The manuals have never been changed since 2014.
I'm changing mine forever. It's costing me so much money because I'm printing up like hundreds, and I'm thinking, actually, I forgot that. I want to add that. I want to do that. And now that's why I've bought my theories online, because I'm like, actually, it's forever changing. And I'm always learning more within the industry, and I want to make sure that I'm mirroring that into my courses and my content, so it's valuable for that student.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you find that the people that come on your courses, that have been on courses where it is just it's £500, you've learned every method possible, and and you're supposed to go out there and do it all with no support. Do you find that people have been on those courses and then that come to you?
Yes.
Can they see a huge difference in the value from
massive?
what
Most
you're
of my
teaching?
reviews say that. They say, I've already done a hair extension course, I've gone to Emily and now I'm not confused. And it's sad, and I really feel for them because they have now paid double and they've had to pay more because they've gone to a cheaper one. But I explained to them it might seem cheaper, but that educator's like earning like 8 or 10 grand in that day, so they're still raking it in, but they're not giving you valuable content catered to you. There's 10 different people in that room that all have different learning styles. I think it's perfect if it's a group of hairdressers or people that have had experience, then they're all on the same page. But if you've got, I don't know, 8 hairdressers and then 2 non-hairdressers, the 2 non-hairdressers are going to be slower at learning, and it's going to take that experience away from the others. So I think things like non-hairdressers going off and doing private courses, longer length courses are much better. And I think it's tailor making those courses around those people. And I think when big companies do that kind of factory setting of every Saturday 10 or 20 people coming in, it's completely ruining the industry. It really is.
It's scary.
And it's what do we do about that?
Yeah.
What do we actually do? How does that work in America, Sam? How does that work in regards to the standards over there?
I think that's something that I feel so passionately about, because here it's so different. Everybody has to have a license. If you want to touch a client, you have to have a license, regardless if you're working with chemicals or not. You need to have a license. And then I think, Bellamy, for example, I teach for Bellamy. You have to have a cosmetology license, or at least at the bare minimum, be in school to be able to take their hair extension course, rather than, there's still brands here that don't own that and don't do that. But I notice it in the UK, these brands are not being held accountable. They'll let anyone in and take their course. And, it's not going to help the students. Like what you said, Emily, you'll have people in the room that have 0 experience, and then people that have been doing hair for 10 years. So then the educator is trying to pivot and work with all these different people, and then the person that maybe has a lot of experience is just not going to get what they need from that course because they're at a total different level. So it's unfair, and it feels like a cash grab, and it's not honest, and it's not ethical. And I think it's about time that these brands that are doing that need to be held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we had a chat about this earlier, and it was basically, we've all had a client come in our salon that has bad-mouthed another extensionist, and I always tell every single one of the girls in the salon, never ever just say, I've never had my hair done from them, so I can't comment, but you don't know how these people have been educated. And that's the frightening thing, that actually sometimes it's obviously down to the extensionist, but where have they learned that from? And that's the scary part. Why have they taught them how to do extensions that way? That's not safe, So sometimes it's actually not down to the hair extensionist, although yes, there is responsibility there. It's down to who's taught them, and that's scary. Yeah.
How do you feel about the whole ethos of 100% pass rate? So everybody that walks through your door becomes a qualified hair extension specialist within the course that you've taught them. How does that run with you?
I have said no to some people and got them back in, and it costs me money as a business, and I don't charge them, but that's just a business loss that I will happily take. And I've done it a couple of times where some people just don't get it. They don't get it straight away. They are slower learners, but sometimes they are the best extensionists that then come out. So I won't give 100% pass rate if I genuinely feel that they're not, because my name is on there, is on their page. But they will make mistakes, and they will not be amazing at the beginning. It's because they need to learn. But it's not being that well equipped as an educator to spot that and to see that. There'll be some people where I think, do you know what? We're going to stop now. You're too tired. You're really struggling with this. Let's revisit it, come back in a couple of weeks, practice on your head and start again. And 9 times out of 10, they're not in the right headspace that day, and they come back and they're amazing. And I think that's quality training.
Absolutely. How do you get on with that, Liane?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. The way that my courses run at the moment is there isn't a finish time. So it is just sort of everyone at their own pace, and when it sort of gets to the end of where I feel like majority of people are happy and I'm happy with them, then that's fine. But if there's anyone that I ever feel needs that extra time, as long as they're obviously happy, then we carry on going. And like Emily said, like if it's really like we need to step back, come back, but also like I'm quite happy to say halfway through the day, just go and sit down for half an hour, like just don't carry on.
We forget standing up for ages. We're used to it. Sometimes I look at my students and they look like they're dying. They're just there like, I need to sit down, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Sometimes you have to step away, and like even like with us still now, like sometimes like just step away and then just come back to it and reevaluate where you were and stuff. And I think it's really important to make them feel that comfortable that they can. Obviously I do groups at the moment, group classes, so even in a group, don't feel bad for sitting down and just kind of like, you're on your own path and you're here for a reason. Everyone here, like you say, has got different experience levels, and I think it is just do what you need to do, like just focus on you. Like everyone else is going their separate ways at the end, so if you need to stay longer or come back, that's fine. Like it is what it is.
Because if you don't allow them to do that, and if they're in a course where they're learning 6 methods in one day, they can't sit down and they can't forget about what.
But also they want to learn 6 methods that day. So like it's like they've gone in thinking by the end of the day I'm going to walk away and I'm going to know everything. Whereas if you're the educator, turn around going, oh, do you know what, I think we can only get 2 out of you because of the way it's going. Like they're going to be so disappointed because they probably don't want to pay to come back or like anything like that. I think it's just the 6 methods is not doable.
No way.
It's just not doable at all.
No. I just think anything over 2 is not doable at all, because when I teach 2, at the end I think that was a lot. Like we got through a lot and everyone's tired and it's late now. I don't know how they do 6 methods.
And for me it depends on the method. If I'll do 1 or 2.
Yeah. Like microbonds and nanobonds. They're very similar, but you wouldn't want to do like weave, tape, nano. It's just it's just too much.
We're tired as well as educators. Every time I finish teaching, my husband's like, "Are you drunk? Your eyes are red." I'm like, "No, I'm not drunk. I'm tired."
But you drive home in like pure silence, and you get in the house.
Really? They ask you so many
Don't talk to
get in
me.
the car and just sit there.
Yeah, and then you just go home and eat a bowl of cereal because you can't even like face like eating actual foods. Yeah.
So as educators yourselves, have you ever been on courses that have been substandard?
I think we all have.
Yeah.
I feel like there'd be something wrong if there wasn't everybody in the industry that had a bad experience.
But I think it isn't one size fits all though. So like I might not be someone's cup of tea, like the way I educate, the way I push things out and stuff like that, and that's absolutely fine. But I think when I went on a course that wasn't, it was one of my first methods when I did a weave, and I actually remember coming away and messaging people on Instagram and saying, they didn't teach me how to tighten it. So when people came back, what do I do? Like, and they were like, oh, well, you just, like, you do this. And I'm like, what do you mean I just do this? Like, and it was just, like we said earlier, it was just putting the method in, nothing else. Yeah. It was, you can put it in, off you go. And I was like, what's a tighten mean? Because again, when you go on Instagram and Facebook, it was, people did tightens differently when you're watching these videos. So it was like, no one taught me that.
And how much support do you find you're having to give your students? So those students that do struggle, some of them are just going to fly and they just take to it naturally, don't they? And then there's some that just don't, and they need a little bit more guidance. Yeah. How long do you decide before it's time where actually they've got to a stage where I've given them everything I can give them, they're just not getting it? Or how long do your students come back for to get that guidance? Further down the line, do you give them support for 12 months? Is there like a cut-off point?
There's no cut-off.
No.
Yeah, I don't have a cut-off.
No.
I've got a student, literally my first ever student that I taught about 8 years ago, and even to this day, maybe once a year, she might say, hey, it's me again. And it's because she's a bit lonely. When you're self-employed, you don't have someone to go into the staff room and have a little rant to, or maybe when you're second guessing yourself. And I'm happy, you know, if I'm free, or if Joe in the salon is free, we'll just ping her back. It's not a big issue. I mean, if someone was messaging me 24/7, I'd actually have to look at myself and think, what have I not given her? Have I not given her the right materials for her to look back through her book and her manual? And I think that's where I'm happy with my courses that I have, because I don't get that constantly. I'll get some people that are nervous and they need a little bit of more of emotional support through it. but that's about it really.
But I think it's like, as a stylist, like I will naturally reach out to people and be like, hey, how did you do that? Or like, what would you do in this like? And I think you're always seeking just a little bit of advice in the industry. And I think that's where social media obviously does help, that you can just reach out and stuff. But in terms of students, I think they naturally go from being a student to being sort of like a bit of a cheerleader as other kind of stylists as well. So I feel like that line, it gets blurred in a way. If you're not a student, you just become like friends in a way.
I've been up against students in awards and I've loved it. I've been like, go on, girl.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I love it. It makes me feel proud.
I think it's good to reach out to students though and ask like, what can I improve on next time, you know, where you can learn from yourself, like where you're making mistakes to make yourself better and cover that next time with your next student. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think if anybody's thinking about going into like the educator's role as well, you have to be okay with being available. Yes, you've got to have boundaries, but essentially, especially if you're working for your personal brand, you have to be okay with being available.
You're their mentor.
Yeah, you're their mentor. Like I was on a FaceTime with my student and our client was there and I'm like, hi, but she needed that support from me and that meant the world to her, and it was just an hour of my time that I could jump on a video call with her, I could support her, I could make her feel that little bit of reassurance. And you know, it's just like, I always feel like good news travels. Bad news travels, faster than good news. So I feel like if you can just like give that little bit of inspiration and that little bit of help to someone, like that speaks volumes of you.
That's why it's valuable.
Yeah.
So valuable.
Yeah.
It's the difference. You can't do that with big brands. You have to. You get an email address and that's it.
Yeah, and wait 7 working days to get back.
I've done that before. I've been to courses and I've been like, I don't even know how to get hold of them, and it's just been a voicemail or something. And I think that's what you are paying for and you're investing in. You know, someone might say, well, I can go for a day and learn 6 methods, but you're charging 4 times the amount for a day and 2 methods. What's the difference? I'm like, oh, I could reel off the difference. You're gonna get mentored into such a better stylist than what you are if you went to one of these places. But it's each to their own. They might have to sometimes learn the hard way, go and do that course, leave more confused, and then book on with us.
And I think as well, like, and this comes from like a really good heart, but if you feel triggered by like what we're discussing, see that as a good thing, you know, see that as how can I improve my training, like, you know, and if you're feeling triggered, that's a good thing, because I'm always trying to think, oh, have I done that right, or am I teaching that right, or could I teach better? Like, use that and continue to evolve your education with it.
Yeah, absolutely. How does it go with you, Sam? Because obviously you do your education, you're doing it with a big brand. So is the set methods as you're teaching, or can you give yourself just as much as the girls around the table can give?
So with me, there's set methods. Like with the Bellamy Masterclass, it's set methods. So you have 2 days and it's 2 methods a day. But I always put my personal spin on things, and I'll have the curriculum, but I always talk from personal experience. And I think that's what makes my class, you know, different than if another educator was teaching the class. And I've had people say that to me before, where maybe they've gone to another educator and then they've come to me and they're like, oh, it's different. And I'm like, it's always going to be different, because I'm talking about my personal experiences, and I'm talking about what I learned in the UK and then what I learned in the US, you know, so it's different. And I think I'm always open to sharing that, and I always give people my like Instagram, you know, so before they leave the class, I give them my Instagram and I follow them all back, and I'm like, message me if you need anything. If you ever need anything, message me. If there's a video you want me to make, message me. And I always have like a ton of videos that I will make and I'll put together and I'll airdrop it to everyone at the end of the class as well, so that they have all the different methods and they can refer back to that video. And then if they need extra help, I always make myself available, even though I'm not getting paid for that. I don't get paid a penny. I just think I didn't have that when I started out, and I never want people to feel how I felt when I started out, because it's really lonely. It's so lonely. It's really sad, and it's really hard to kind of hit the ground running when you don't have anyone that you can turn to. So I never want people to feel that loneliness that I felt.
Yeah, it's a really powerful message. When you think about where you were 10 years ago and you think about yourself now, so 10 years ago you would have made loads of mistakes, and obviously you build and you grow and you learn from those mistakes. Do you still ever make mistakes now?
Of course, yeah.
Of course. You've never completed it. You just get better, but you'll never complete anything, I think, in life. Every day is a learning curve. You know, there's certain types of people that come in where I've never seen that type of hair, or where they'll have a reaction or something to the way I fitted the extension. I think I've never had this issue before. You know, I had Jo, actually, who works for me. Tapes can't stay in her hair. I don't know what it is, but no matter what we use, what tapes we use, anything, they just won't stay in her hair. And because she's just very oily, basically, and they just fall out.
Yeah,
and
some clients are not right for tapes.
Yeah. And it's just little things like that, you know. I'll see a new client and then I think your hair's exactly like hers. I'm probably now going to go on to that. So it's a little lesson that I've taught myself, and
Change methods.
Yeah.
I think it's being open about it as well, and like with the client, or if they come back and you're just like, yeah, maybe I could have done this differently, or like sometimes you might just say, okay, well, this is the first time I'm doing your hair, so I'm learning your lifestyle, I'm learning your hair. So it's looking at it of like not a failure. It's just each individual client is a lesson, and you're just learning to their style. Like you might change the way you fit, anything with every different client.
So different. Everyone's likes and dislikes are so different. So you have to mould around them.
It doesn't mean you've done it wrong. It's just changing it.
I have so many clients that some like it a lot more higher to the parting, which I really don't like doing that. But I'm like, but if that's what you want, okay, I'll just put it in them bits. Or they'll be like, can you put it further back or put lower? Like every client is like has their little way of saying, can you just do it this way and that way? And a lot of the time you can kind of bend to their needs, but you learn as you go along. And there's always little mistakes where you just think, oh, I don't know if I've done that right. And I'll say to them, be like, well, I'm going to put a couple here. I feel like we can fill out the gap at the front, but if it annoys you, come back, I'll just remove it. Like, and just being honest with them and not just shoving it and be like, let's hope for the best, and just just being honest.
Being human.
Yeah, I think it is just not looking at it as like going wrong. It's just like changing it. It wasn't right, it wasn't wrong, but it's just like there's something else we can do.
And are you happy to pass that on to your students? So your students come to you for education and you're going to teach them how to be the best they can be, which is amazing. But do you ever let them know that you do make mistakes and that this has happened?
I always give examples.
I think it's important.
I post them. I post them on my Instagram. I'll make a story. Like I had a client, her bead slipped here and her weft was popping out. So I posted it and I said, this happened to my client, but let me show you how I'm going to fix it, you know, because then it shows mistakes happen. And I think the best quality that you can give them is showing them how to fix it as well, because sometimes at these classes they're not showing you those real life situations of how to fix it. So then that's kind of like the ongoing education, the follow-up. How do I fix it's not even your mistake, they've just caught it with the hairbrush.
Yeah, absolutely. If we think about what's the one thing you wish you knew when you first started with your education, what do you think you could tell yourself 10 years ago that you know now that you didn't know then when you started your education journey?
It's a hard question, Nicola, because there's so many, but
the work you put in is worth it. You will make it at some point.
I think it's just having your own back, like trusting what you're doing is right, because if it wasn't right you wouldn't do it. Like in your heart, if that's what you believe is right for your clients and everything, I think it's just believing in yourself and just trusting the process, really.
The students can sense that the minute they step into your class as well, and they're like, oh, I can tell this girl's so passionate about what she does, and I can't wait to like take a bit of inspiration leaving that class.
So if we wrap it up now, I just want you all to we'll go around the table. I just want you to tell me about the proudest memory that you've got with education. What do you feel most proud about that you've handed over, or an experience that you've gone through that you feel really proud about because you've done so well with that, or with that particular student, or in the industry?
I mean, this year in particular has been just an unreal year in terms of proud moments. It's been the best year because I'm teaching a life-changing method. And I think seeing how emotional like my students are getting when they're transforming women's life who are going through hair loss, whether it be cancer or whether it be, you know, female pattern hair loss or whatever type of whatever type of hair loss they're going through, like to see them change that person's life is just, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
it is
incredible.
Yeah, I can feel myself tearing up now thinking about it, but it is. It is just amazing to say that. God, I taught them that. Yeah,
absolutely.
it's the impact it's making on women's lives. It's
So
just
powerful.
it's just the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Emma, you get a proudest moment?
Oh, I've got quite a few, but I would say I had one student message me a couple of years ago, and she sent me like the longest message and was like, I just wanted you to know that your course has changed my life for the better. I've always lived in the smallest places, doing this, doing that, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And she said, and I have my 3 kids, I'm a single mum, I've bought my first house, I've bought my first car, I can send my kids to all the clubs they can because I believed in myself and you believed in me. And I just read it and I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. You know, I didn't really think as to how much it can impact other people's lives, but it did with me. You know, I was the youngest out of my friends who bought my first house and my first nice car, and it's passing that on and knowing that it's not just a method, like what you said, that I'm teaching, it's also changing people's lives. And that's my proudest moment.
Goosebumps that. The fact that you can actually do that in education.
It's giving people that power to be their own boss and to actually take control of their life, no matter what they've gone through in their life. They don't have to be, you know, I was terrible at being hired. I never listened. I never liked being told what to do. I had to be my own boss. And I like the fact that I've been able to help other people do that as well.
Amazing. I love that. Sam?
I think my proudest moment is just being able to change people's perception on hair extensions and how amazing they can look, how natural they can look. Hair extensions don't have to look like hair extensions, right? They can look like your own hair. So I think I had an incident recently and the student came into class and she kind of was a little bit hostile with me and almost like, you're here to teach me. So show me what you've got. And I was taken aback a little bit, but then I just was, you know, humbled and I was like, okay, let's do this. Let me live up to this challenge. And I just tried to just be me and just be real and be open and be honest. And then I think that was huge for me because I totally changed. And then by the end of the class, she had a 360. I killed her with kindness, you know, and then changed her perception of hair extensions and teaching. And I think she thought that I was going to have this like big ego. And I was like, no, you're right. You're paying. Like, let me show you what I've got. Let me change your perception of hair extensions and educators and all the different negatives that a lot of people have in the hair world. So that was a big moment for me because I'm all about empowerment, bringing people up. I truly believe that we're all in this together, and I truly want that to come through in the way that I teach. And to see her walk away and message me after and be like, thank you. I was like, this could have got so easily gone the other way. She could have walked, you know, if I kind of like gave her the same energy that she was giving me, it would have been totally different. But yeah, I like that. I like a challenge and I love it when people humble me.
Yeah, I love that. Brilliant. Love that.
I would say it's not one in particular moment, but it's the combined moment of when they show you their first client. Like, I love that, getting that first message of being like, I've gone away, I've done my first client and it went like this, and you're getting that kind of, they've got that buzz now. Like, it's seeing that like little fire in them. And I think no matter how many people that will ever send me them messages, they never get boring. Like, and they're the moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, I really love this. Yeah, that's my moments.
Oh, I love that. Brilliant.
I'd say my proudest moment is just branching off into doing masterclasses this year and just teaching other hairdressers my techniques and just sharing my knowledge and just being vulnerable in that moment and just telling them my all and everything that I know, and not trying to be something that amazing, but I'm just trying to just share all my knowledge and just help them progress and better them as hairdressers. Like I want to share, like you said earlier, I don't want to gatekeep anything. I just want to give everything I've got. And when I get messages back later on, it's so nice that they, you know, send me these positive messages and be like, thank you so much for being honest and breaking down things, and telling me everything that you know. It was quite nice to get that back, and yeah, it makes it all worth it.
I love that. Oh, what a powerful message. I love it. Okay, thank you very much, ladies. Loved it. Thank you.